Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Driverless Acceleration event here at FSG 2022. We are here on the start and finish straight of the Hockenheimring, looking to see the driverless cars that we saw in the skid pad event yesterday already, taking a run at the 75-meter straight line acceleration event this time around. Track conditions here are relatively calm. The sun is under cloud cover, comfy, what feels like 22 degrees. And the first car that's already in the queue is car number 31 from the TU Munich. Yesterday in the skid pad event, we had some confidence, or lack of confidence rather, from this team whether they would complete their skid pad runs. Let's hope they have more confidence today. Just to summarize a little bit how this event is supposed to work, we will see the driverless driver getting out of the car. The team will make the necessary preparations for the car, engage any software modes, flip all the right switches, and then the team will join us over here on the side of the track. The car will be left to its own devices, needs to be enabled remotely with a remote control box that only controls the engage and shutdown buttons. And then the car itself needs to decide to set off down the track. The yellow cones will be on the right side of the car, blue cones on the left side. And once it crosses the finish line 75 meters from here, it needs to stop by itself in the orange cone area. Only when the car recognizes itself that it has crossed the finish line and the the flashing orange lights turn to a solid blue, is it a valid run. Each team will be given 2 runs, and a run is counted as started as soon as the autonomous mode engages upon the command of the FSG officials here on track. Looks like the Munich team is all set up here. We're waiting for the go-ahead from the officials. And what we see now from the car, the blue flashing lights, means that the The abort trigger was pushed. The safety shut down.
Yeah, so the idea is that they get a certain amount of time. They get 30 seconds after the official gives them the go-ahead. And they press the button, and then the car doesn't go into autonomous mode. Within 30 seconds, they get the instruction to abort the run. So then the safety official of the team will press the abort button. And that's what you see now is the blue lights flashing, which means it was a manual abort by the team because they just ran out of time. So unfortunately, that's a first DNF for the Munich team.
Yeah, the first run is invalidated. They have another one. It doesn't look like they will take that immediately. The car is also not being removed from the starting line immediately because we have. I spoke too soon. We have a car joining the queue.
So just for the people that didn't watch the live stream yesterday, which I can imagine because it was quite a long live stream, just let's explain a little bit about the whole setup of the driverless and the more or less hybrid competition, right? Because we have, so we used to have the driverless cup, which was solely cars with driverless abilities without any manual input from the drivers. This year, the organization wanted to integrate it a little bit into the other classes as well. So we have actually the electric competition and the combustion competition, but they they do have the option to have driverless elements on the car. So they have the option to compete in both cars. So either the combustion electric cup or the driverless cup. So the cars here that we see here now on the driverless acceleration area are the cars that actually can do both. They will definitely, and this is one of the cars that we see here now, the Munich car, will be entering both cups, the driverless cup and the electric cup. And actually it's one of the top favorites for both actually. So I hope they do get it going, because it's a lot of points up for grabs. So also that's why like the driverless cars get 2 runs on the acceleration without the driver, and they will have 2 runs with the driver. So in total they still will have 4 runs if they elect to go on both.
Yeah, and we will see the manual acceleration of these same cars that are now here running the driverless this afternoon on the same track. But where it gets a little bit complicated is that the normal driverless and combustion cars, the normal electric and combustion cars that have driverless elements will be competing here. They compete in the electric and combustion cup, but they can elect to join the driverless cup, which has some extra static elements, and the autonomous track drive and autocross later on today and tomorrow. That is a completely different scoring system. So the 150 points that are available here from the driverless acceleration and the driverless skid pad that we saw yesterday count towards the electric or combustion cup and the driverless cup, and only if the team wants to spend or elects to take part in the driverless cup do they participate in the driverless engineering design, the track drive, and the autonomous event for the driverless cars.
And yes, it is very complicated. So if you really want to know exactly how it's all added up and what the rules are with respect to all the different cups, I would suggest to go on the website of the Formula Student Germany and read the rules, because there, if you read it there, it becomes a little bit more clear with the points and the division between the cups. So, but the main thing is the organization really wants to integrate the driverless element into the other cups as well, and encourage people, the regular teams, to think about the driverless functions of the car as well.
And we've also talked about yesterday at great lengths about the challenges that this presents for the teams. It's another level of complexity on top of the normal complexity of an electric or combustion normal car without driverless elements. Adding the driverless elements on top is much more work. But it's work that the Stuttgart team has put in as they set off on their first driverless acceleration run here, taking out about a handful of cones towards the finish line. But the solid blue light indicates that the car has at least recognized that the run is over. So it is a valid run.
Yes, obviously taking out the cones will be added to their time. Was it a 0.2 seconds? Oh no, here was 2 seconds, a 2-second penalty. So it's actually quite a big penalty that they get. I think the run was 4:89, if I saw it correctly. So we're not sure what the exact time will be at the end, because I think I counted
8 seconds added. It's 4 cones.
I see 4 cones at least that we can see from here. So it will not be the best time of the day, we can assume. But at least it's a time on the board, right? So, and just about the scoring, we had quite a puzzle yesterday about how the scoring works with all the points. And actually, it's ranking based, right? So let's imagine 10 cars would compete and put in a time on the autocross. Then the 10th car would get a certain amount, or at least one part of the total points to be gained. And it's actually a linear all the way up to the first one, which obviously gets the maximum number of points. So I think out of the how many points we have?
150 total, split between acceleration and skid pad.
Exactly.
So yeah, the ranking matters. In this case, yes, the ranking is determined by the time, but the time the fastest time by a long shot doesn't get you the most points by a long shot. It's a linear spread.
Yeah, exactly. And it used to be different. It used to be the faster the time and the biggest, the larger the gap to the one behind or in front would determine how many points you would get. So actually that was a ratio between the fastest time and the slowest time and your time. So if you would have a big gap, then it means also big gap in points. This year, that's not the case.
Yeah, that's the scoring method that we're used to from the manual cars that we will see later on today. Maybe we can talk a little bit about how the setup here works. So at tk.formulastudent.de we have the timekeeping data available for anyone cooking along at home. We have the two times available here. We actually have a 10-meter time that's very close to us here, and the final 75-meter time. And that's, I think, pretty key, because the key to score a very fast acceleration time, we talked about last year about already at great length how important it is to get off the line correctly.
Yes, and for the people not remembering last year or not having watched the whole live stream last year, yeah, it's one of the key factors in the acceleration is getting cleanly off the line. The way it works, the car is positioned manually 30 centimeters behind the line. They have a fancy gadget here that with lights that indicates whether you're in exactly the same in the right position or not. And then you will get a green flag, and then you can choose to go whenever you want to go. It has to be within 30 seconds, obviously, with the driverless cars. And then the moment you cross the timing beacon, the acceleration time starts. And the first one is after 10 meters, and that's a very good indication of how well you got off the line. And then, of course, the final 65 meters is all about the power, right?
Yeah, and the green flag that we just talked about in this driverless case, of course, isn't a physical green flag. We'll see that back with the manual acceleration. It's a virtual green flag. It's the FSG official telling the team that they are allowed to engage the autonomous mode, and that's also when that 30-second timer starts. That timer is there in the interest of speeding up this event a little bit, because the expectation is that there are more cars, since this event is integrated into the electric and combustion scoring as well. I think today we expect about 10 cars to be able to participate here. There might be a few more that make it through scrutineering today. So the dream hasn't quite worked out. Quite a number of the teams that were planning on participating in both the manual and driverless events here had to pull out. It's been a difficult year for everyone, I think. But a few have made it, and we're now seeing the Munich car rolling up here again for their second attempt of the day. Their first run, of course, being invalidated by the abort.
Yeah, and we saw yesterday on the driverless skid pad, Jonas, that once the car got off the line, right, they had a number of critical points that they needed to pass, sort of stage gates or critical gates. And the first one was obviously the right-hand turn on the skid pad. The moment they passed that, most of the cars would complete at least a couple of laps. Here, it's, I think, also we have a couple of like critical points. First off, getting off the line, and then staying all the way in the right lane. And I think the bigger the speed of the car, the more difficult it is to correct any deviation, right? So you will get a deviation from the line, which the car has to correct. That's always the case. And the faster it can correct, the better it can stay on the line. But that's something that we will watch for today, because I think that will be the most difficult part for the cars to finish the acceleration, because there will be deviations, and will the car be able to react fast enough to correct it?
We've seen the teams yesterday at the skid pad spend great deals of time lining up the car in just the right place with respect to all the cones. We're not quite seeing that level of detail here yet. so it might not matter quite as much to the teams. But indeed, there are a few critical points in keeping the car straight, especially on a track that isn't 100% straight either. It's maybe hard to tell for anyone watching at home, but there is a slight twist to this whole plane, so you can't expect the car to go straight just by not moving the steering wheel at all.
Yeah, and by nature, race cars are very nimble, so they are very easy to turn into a corner. So that means any driver input, or in this case, any input from the tarmac itself to the wheels, will cause a slight deviation into a right-hand or a left-hand turn. So that's something that you actually don't want in this case. You just want to have a stable car which will only go straight forward, not doing any turns. I'm not sure whether that's actually quite an interesting question to ask the teams, whether they actually set up the mechanical part of the car to deal with it. Because I know back in the good old days, we used to have toe out, for example, on the front, just to be able to turn in just a little bit easier. Now I can imagine that you have a toe in, like on road cars, to be able to drive straight.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's worth the effort on a driverless car. It might be more time better spent to optimize the software a little bit, but who knows? Now the Munich car is again ready to go. Solid orange means that the autonomous system is ready to receive an input. Ready to drive sound is sounding, and it sets off. 5.52 second run. No cones collected. And the solid blue light is the sign we were all waiting for, trying not to curse it again. That happened more than once. The solid blue light needs to shine for the run to be considered a valid run. The car has then decided that it has stopped and finished its mission.
Yeah, and we could definitely see the car swerving just a little bit, especially at the beginning. So the start wasn't that great, but it just managed to miss the cones and drive straight. And after that, after about 40 meters, you could also see a slight swerve, but the car corrected itself brilliantly. So very well done by the Munich team. 5.52, I think it was. So we got a very decent banker lap, and also the bar is set for the rest of the teams.
Yeah, the bar is set, and especially considering that their first run was aborted, this was pretty much the only thing that they could do, get a clean run in for the day in the driverless category. Of course, if you manage to succeed with your first run, you can be a lot more aggressive. That's not what we saw from the Munich team here. It was a very conservative start, not aggressive at all, but a good job nevertheless. And we have some on-track action to report here at the acceleration track. The TU Hamburg car has joined us. We did already see some good stuff from them at the driverless skid pad yesterday. Though, if I remember correctly, their first run did not complete successfully. So let's hope that, that this first acceleration run from them is actually going to be valid. Still the last preparations on the car being made, flicking switches, checking settings, and tightening the seat belts in most cases, even though there's no driver inside. Hamburg team members now retreating to a safe distance. And the go-ahead from the officials is given. Car sets off. Very steady pace so far. And a 6.33 second run. That's completed successfully with no cones being hit either. This is, of course, the first of 2 runs that they will be able to do here today on the driverless acceleration. 2 more runs will be allowed with a driver installed later on this afternoon. Mickey, it's happening. Car is lined up here.
Oh my God. We have a car here. And not just any car, it's car number 33, Zurich.
Yeah, we were already contemplating yesterday at the skid pad if there was going to be the classic Zurich upset at the end of the day. It is late in the session now, but nevertheless, Zurich showed up for their first run. Now given the go-ahead.
Yeah, just to remind everybody, the car has 30 seconds to get into autonomous mode and drive off. And as always, Christian is fair but strict with the time. And let's hope the car will manage to boot within that allotted time. Yeah, I think it was just within the time. So unfortunately, unfortunately the car first stopped. I don't know what happened there, Jonas. It just stopped and then accelerated again and then veered off the track and took out a couple of cones. And I think the ASR responsible, he terminated the run with the emergency button.
Yeah, flashing blue is a bad sign. Fortunately, the timing equipment that Zurich normally likes to aim for is intact.
You mean AMZ, right? AMZ? No? Sorry. Anyway, we're glad that the car at least survived. And I think this was their first run?
This was their first run,
We haven't
yes.
seen them yet before, so...
this one's invalid, but they have another one.
Yes, and we still have an hour and a half, almost an hour and a half to compete another run, so...
Meanwhile, here on the acceleration track, a queue has formed of driverless cars. And Augsburg is being pushed to the first run of the day for them.
Yes, I think we have the first official overtake of the competition because they just overtook Lisboa in the queue. So this is a first for them. Augsburg, we haven't seen them before here on the acceleration. So this is for them, it's the first time. And obviously, we have the other car in the queue is Lisboa. Just behind them, it looks like Darmstadt. There we go. So we have 3 cars competing for the fastest time. I think there's quite some room for improvement in the acceleration. I've seen a couple of years ago, we've seen acceleration times that were very, very close to the regular times at least. I think it was FS Italy, which we saw acceleration times below the 4 seconds. So not by a large margin. Normally this afternoon we will expect something like 3.5, 3.6 second acceleration runs. From a number of teams. Not sure whether these cars will be able to manage that.
No, especially with what we've seen so far, with above 5 seconds being sort of the ceiling here. We can always hope, but yesterday the skid pad times were definitely a little bit more competitive than what we've seen so far from the driverless acceleration.
Yeah, so any car that will do, you know, between 4.5 and 5 seconds will be considered a very good run.
That was a very sporty start from Augsburg, though. And with a 4.03, that's a very fast time.
Very good. Let's not jinx it yet, because it still
like
has to be... Yes, it's a blue light, so that's amazing time. 4.03, that's... Okay, so there goes the theory about 4.5 being a very good time. This is an excellent time, even.
If all we need to do is to say that nobody will be putting down a faster run, then we should do that more often.
And in theory, this should be even faster than the normal cars, right? Because they lack 60, 70 kilogram driver, right? So.
Yeah, it depends. 70, 80, 90.
Yeah, well, it depends on the usually female driver with sometimes weighing only 55 kilograms. At least I know a couple of the female drivers that used to do the acceleration runs, and they weigh like 55 kilograms. So, but still, 55 kilograms on a car of 170, 180 kilograms, it's a lot.
Next up, Lisbon is lining up here on the start line. As always, the driverless driver has to get out of the driverless car.
Yeah, so I think we have some very angry marshals here, because one of the Lisboa guys just crossed the beam, and as we all know, there's a huge penalty for that. And before you know it, the timekeeping guys will come out of the van looking all pale and white, or being burned away in the sun, and you don't want to see that, right?
Well, it's not an actual penalty in terms of points. Luckily, the run doesn't count as started, but yeah, an angry timekeeper is a bad timekeeper. We've had absolute radio silence here for quite a while, but now there's actually a queue forming. Hamburg is joining the queue as well, next to Darmstadt.
Yeah, we heard earlier that they might have had some kind of technical problem, right? So good to see them back, because it looks like they finished it. We had expected them a little bit earlier, but good to see that they fixed whatever issue they had, and they're back now.
Yeah, if I heard them correctly, one of their master switches fell into one of the cooling ducts that was particularly small, so all sorts of issues can happen to you at this Formula Student competition.
So we already have a very good time set just now, 4.03. It's still the fastest time of the day. We still have about 50 minutes left in this session. So 50 minutes for all the driverless teams to put in a faster time than a 4:03, which will be very difficult to do because that run looked pretty good.
As always, as at a Formula Student competition, these events are scheduled and a finish time is set, and unless there are any higher forces at play, these times do not get extended. So if you do not show up in the allotted time, then you will not be allowed to participate in that particular event. And especially with so much downtime here, with no cars running at all in the driverless acceleration, 12:30 will most definitely be the cutoff point, from my point of view anyway. Since we have an actual queue forming here now, Lisbon, I think, is being told to move the car away from the starting line. They were not fast enough in preparing their car in time. Darmstadt is being given the precedence now.
So do we have any idea what happened to the Lisboa car? Why they were pushed away? My Portuguese is a little bit rusty, so I'm not sure what happened actually.
Well, mine is non-existent, but what I did see is that the Lisbon team was also standing in the queue for a very long time before they even pushed forward to the start and finish line. So, start line. It's a bit of a mystery what happened to them. Darmstadt now being given the go-ahead. And I think that's bad news for them. The car looks like it turned off. At least the autonomous mode is disengaged since the orange light is no longer shining on the side of the car. There's a little bit of a discussion going on with the officials whether or not this run will be counted as DNF or whether they can rerun this attempt.
Yeah, I think what happened there, Jonas, is the car failed after the ASR pressed the button. So I think that's the official start of the run. When the ASR presses the button, that's the official start. So if the car fails after that moment, it's unfortunate. It's probably a DQ. We will try to find out from one of the officials if that's actually the case or not.
Yeah, we saw this yesterday at the skid pad event as well. The subtle difference is usually based on whether or not the virtual green flag, the go-ahead by the official, has been given or not. Next up on the starting line, Hamburg is joining us. We already saw a time from them earlier today. There was a 6.33. With 2 runs available, they still have an attempt left to improve themselves.
Yes, and in theory, we would expect at least 10 cars, right, Jonas? Because yesterday we saw, I think it was 10 or 11 cars even on the driverless kit pad. And those cars I would expect here as well, at least. And I know that some of the teams also were trying to get through the final scrutineering stages to be able to compete in this competition as well. So
Hamburg now setting off. Definitely looks faster than before, but it's collecting the last 5 or 6-ish cones just before the finish line. And it looks like the ASR has actually aborted the run.
yes, and I think this is more or less the similar situation as we saw in their first run, right? Because I think in that case, also the car went to the right, took out 3 cones. I think eventually it stopped and it had the solid blue light. So it did count as a run, I believe. But this one definitely did not. It's also, you can also see for the viewers at home, you can see the blue light flashing, which means that the ASR pressed the emergency button to stop the car. And I think he did it just in time before it took out the orange cones.
Yeah. Getting back a little bit to the mystery of why we don't see all of the cars that we saw yesterday at the skid pad. Part of the challenge of this year's competition is, of course, that the driverless skid pad and the driverless acceleration also count towards the point score of the teams that participate in the normal electric and combustion. So if the teams do have driverless components on their car available, they can partake in these events to score extra points for those categories. And concurrently with this driverless acceleration, the manual skid pad is running. So depending on the preference of the teams, they might have gone to the manual skid pad instead. And then you still need to wheel your car over here and set all the software up appropriately.
Yes, and ideally, if you have the time, also do some setup changes, right? I mean, I know the teams that don't do anything between skid pad and acceleration, but I do know also some other teams that actually do make a point of adjusting the setup of the car. And sometimes it makes sense, and sometimes it's just, you know, getting a little bit lucky and having the right drive off of the line. But I do know that some teams actually take the time to do that, so.
Now that the cones are set up again by the officials, it looks like Darmstadt is back at the starting line.
Yeah, they just have to wait until the Hamburg car clears the track, obviously, because they had some issue. Also, the marshals had to, well, correct the track again and put back the cones that the Hamburg car had collected. So we just have to wait just a little bit until, I think they will wait until the Hamburg car is just around the corner and safely out of the way. You never know whether these cars keep accelerating, and they just want to make sure that no accidents can happen with people on track. So we'll just have to wait just a little bit before the next one is up for the acceleration run.
Yeah, the organization is taking every measure possible to make sure that this event does run as quickly as possible. There's even a golf cart running along the track here to bring the team members to their stranded car to push it away. But then it's still a good 200 meters for them to clear the first turn of the Hockenheim ring here. Looks like Darmstadt is fully ready to go though. The officials giving the go-ahead. Cautious start. Crossing the finish line. Hitting one cone just on the left side of the car, but a solid blue light is a good sign for them.
Yeah, so I'm not sure whether the cone is out of the box. It's not tipped over, but if it's still touches the box, then I think there's no penalty involved, right? So that's still the rule. But it did give it a little nudge, so we'll see whether that will be a penalty or not. Anyway, it was a completed run, so they have points on the board, which is important as well.
Yeah, 6.24 was the time for that run. If I look very closely, I'm quite sure that that cone is out of position though, so that would add 2 seconds to that final time. That is not respected in the timekeeping that you can find at tk.formulastudent.de, but that will be collected and respected at the final scoring that's published later. I guess one of the advantages of these aborted runs is that the teams are much closer to remove their car from track, so that the queue can move a little bit faster. And we have 3 cars currently waiting in queue and another one sort of off to the side, as the team from, I believe, Valencia is lining up for their run. Excuse me, that's Milano, car number 90. Can just hear very clear instructions from the officials to the team members of Milano here to hurry it along. They still have their laptop out trying to get the car ready, but since we have quite the queue forming, the tension is rising a little bit to keep the event moving forward.
Yes, and Christian is very clear in his rules, right? He gives you some time to set up, which is reasonable, and of course should be able to complete all the necessary tasks before the car is started. So, but if you don't, then he's very strict as well. He's fair but strict, and then you lost your time or your slot, and then the next one is up, and then the same rules apply. Yeah, and the next car, Jonas, car number 69 is Mannheim. I don't think we've seen them yet today, or even yesterday in skip pad. I'm not sure. I don't think we saw them yet.
No, if my memory serves me right, that's definitely a fresh scrutineering finisher. It looks like Mannheim is now given the go-ahead by the officials to engage the autonomous mode. And that disappointing blue flashing light shows up again. I think the 30 seconds that are allotted to each team once the virtual green flag is given were just up. And since we have 6 cars now waiting in queue, about half an hour before the finish of the event, the officials are really trying to move things forward.
So, Jonas, we see the pressure mounting a little bit. A couple of teams either not getting off the line or only making it 10 meters or something. So we do have still a number of cars, like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars waiting in line. At least one of them is to the side a little bit. But we have a contender here as well, Jonas.
Yeah, a fresh one that we haven't seen here today, Trondheim. We did see them driving on the driverless skid pad yesterday already. And they did good, so we hope to see good things from them here on the acceleration as well.
Well, and they are going back. So
I shouldn't have said anything.
Yeah, the commentator's curse strikes again. Again, another one pushed to the line, not ready yet. I think that's Christian also telling the teams, are you ready to go or not? If you're not ready to go, please go back and give the slot to someone else who is ready to go.
Yeah, with the integration of the driverless components into the normal realm of FS electric and FS combustion, we have a lot more driverless teams here. But that also means that people might not be used to the habits of the driverless class, where the setup time should be reduced as much as possible.
Yeah, and yesterday we saw a couple of teams also with the phone being in contact with the rest of the team, who was watching the telemetry of the car, and actually they would have to give the go-ahead before the car could be started. So there's a whole lot more involved behind the scenes that we could actually see. So there was a lot of communication between the ASR and the rest of the team, watching the car closely from a distance with the telemetry. Yeah, and we have car number 90 from Milano back on the track. And we have about 25 minutes left in the session. So I do hope everybody gets at least another run in. I think we see another car being pushed up to the line. So it's getting actually quite busy here. We do know that these cars have done also a run on probably on the manual skid pad, right?
Yeah, I think that's the prime reason that we're now seeing this busy traffic here. The manual skid pad has finished just a couple of minutes ago. So now there's time left at this event. The teams do decide to show up, which I don't think is the smartest move. Now we run into the scenario where we have probably too many cars for the time that's remaining.
And Milano also already indicating that the car will not drive. We saw the blue flashing light indicating that the ASR pushed the emergency button. And I think Christian told them, okay, move the car, please. Make room for Trondheim again. And we had the similar situation just a minute ago where Trondheim had to make room for Milano. So they switched places again. And actually, if I am correct, I think the Trondheim car was fastest in the skidpad event just now. I think it was a very close battle between Trondheim, Delft, Munich, a couple of very, very, very fast cars, times well below the 5 seconds on the skidpad, which is very impressive indeed. So if these cars are any good here on the acceleration, that would mean a lot of points today.
It means a lot of points today, and it also means that this afternoon should be good fun as well, where we'll have the manual acceleration. So these same cars that we've seen this morning in the driverless mode will run alongside all the other cars that don't have any driverless equipment with drivers installed.
Yeah, we do have a time of 4:03 seconds already on the driverless acceleration. I'm pretty sure it will not hold up to the manual violence of the drivers. However, it's still very decent, and we might get a couple of quick times in here, but let's not jinx it further because we've already done that a couple of times. So let's just hope everybody in queue will be able to run at least once, maybe even twice.
With a very tentative start, Trondheim, just after 8 meters or so, has to abort the run. And now the car is actually in a very precarious spot, right between two timing beams. I wonder how many point turn they will have to do to get out of that one, to avoid crossing the beams and angering the timekeeping guys.
Yeah, I think as long as the timekeepers know about it and they can see it, or maybe they can even shut it down temporarily, it should be okay. But it's a very delicate system, right? So they don't want to mess it up too much because it's all, you know, they have to do a lot of manual actions to delete the times. But they actually chose the right way of backing out of the acceleration run. So that's well done.
We're now getting regular visits from cars that have been rolled up to the starting line at least once and had to retreat again. Budapest is going for another attempt.
Yeah, so this is the difference from last year, right? The teams got almost unlimited time to set up the car and trying to reboot it and reset it. And this year it's very strict with a limited time. I think they have 1 minute to set it up, and then another 30 seconds after the button is pressed for the autonomous mode, and that's it. So a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes, is the most you will get on the starting line.
Yeah, from my perspective, I actually really like that. It makes the queue more dynamic. We get to see more teams being given a chance to actually complete a run here. Budapest engaging their high voltage system. A very aggressive start. And collecting a whole row of cones in the finishing section. But the car does trigger the blue light solidly.
And did you see the time that they put in? I saw a 3:61, and which should be a very, very quick time, actually.
It would be a very good time if it wasn't for every cone an additional 2 seconds. But the fact that we see an extremely competitive time from a driverless car here is very promising. If they can keep it straight in the finishing zone, maybe tweak things a little bit and still get into the queue for their second run in time, this is going to be exciting.
Yeah, so we can already see the potential of these cars, Jonas. 50, 60 kilograms lighter than what we will see in the afternoon. And 361, because it did complete the acceleration in 361. And then only got the cones after the... Let me see if I see that correctly. So I stand corrected, Jonas, it's a 367. And it did only collect the cones after after the finish line. But they do count, unfortunately. So, and I'm also not sure whether do we see a blue solid line? So we did. So yeah, so actually it is a valid run, but with a couple of seconds extra added to it.
I think the Budapest team, this was actually their second attempt, so we will not see them again in the driverless anyway. If their car can go this fast in driverless mode, who knows what they can do with the driver installed?
Well, in theory, it should be slower because heavier, but we all know that it doesn't work like that just yet. Maybe in a couple of years, it will be absolutely faster than with the driver.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Milano is giving it another shot. You can hear pneumatic pumps filling up the reservoirs for the emergency braking system. And if we look behind, just behind the starting line, it's getting incredibly busy in the queue now. There is cars in the first run queue, in the second run queue, still waiting for their chance to go. This is, of course, the scenario that we don't want to see, where a lot of cars are still waiting for their first run this late in the day. We have about 18 minutes left here for the time being. And it looks like Milano has to abort again, not quite getting the car ready to drive in time. For those teams that are not in the driverless acceleration queue, it is worth noting that the setup of the panoramic picture is starting as we speak. So if you want to take part in the picture, which I would strongly urge you to do so, please start making your way to the panoramic picture with the car.
Yeah, so we have Zürich back on the line, and we saw them earlier. Let's see whether they can actually surprise us yet again, as they are usually tend to do. What kind of time did they put in the first time? They didn't have a time in. I see it's DNF, I think.
Yeah, so this is their second attempt. They have to make this one count if they want to score any points. The first run was, I think, aborted with a lot of cones being hit. So far, we're hearing all the right noises from the car. Fans spinning up in anticipation. It's a very hesitating start, but the car is moving. And we see the same oscillation, and this time it's hitting the other side of the track cones than the ones it did in its first run.
Yeah, so this is a very similar run to the first one, isn't it? A very hesitant start, acceleration after a couple of meters, and then oscillating out of the track. So yeah. Definitely there's something that can be improved on that, but it did look good, at least the second half of the acceleration. It did pick up some speed, so the potential is definitely there. They just have to correct the gremlins a little bit.
Yeah, unfortunately we won't see them again here at the acceleration, of course. The time was okay, it was an 8.43, but since the blue light is flashing, this will count as a DNF, unfortunately, for them. Next up, it's car number 44, a team that we haven't seen here at the acceleration today yet.
So I think this is the stressful situation of the timekeepers and the marshals and the white shirts, because we do have a time limit until 12:30. So I'm not sure how much buffer the organization have. We know that in the past years it was very strict. It was 12:30 plus 0 seconds is game over. Whether you were in the queue or not, it didn't matter. We might have a little bit of an extension here. I'm not sure how much, because also the panoramic picture is going on. So there's a lot going on a day like this. So they really can't afford to extend too much. And yeah, to be honest, a lot of teams did make a choice to do this at a later moment, or even wait on purpose for better weather or even a better track. We don't know, or maybe had some issues, or just passing the last scrutineering stages.
Ulm, meanwhile, looks like they are ready to go. That's a completely clean run from them, no cones being hit. The time also looks okay, 7.17. Definitely not at the top of the field. We've seen very fast times from Budapest that are about half that time. But nevertheless, a clean run on the board means points in the bag. I think what's being wheeled now to the start line is a car that we haven't seen in the driverless disciplines yet so far. It's the DHBW Stuttgart, car number 177. course, with the queue this long, the pressure to get the car going begins immediately. There's a clock of a minute ticking, and trying to move as many of the cars that are still in the queue here through the acceleration track. We do try to get as many cars the opportunity to run, but especially with the multiple hours that we've had of downtime here on the track, I doubt that there will be any leniency on the time.
Yeah, we don't know, so we're speculating a little bit, but that's okay. That's what we are here for, to speculate. Anyway, we see the DHBW Stuttgart team on the line, and I think they're almost ready, but we do have to wait for the Ulm car to clear the track. And it looks like a very heavy car to push, at least. So it will take a while until they're out of sight before the track is clear, and the Stuttgart car will be able to commence its run.
We heard the safety brake disengage with a loud pneumatic snap. I think the team now has to wait still a little bit longer before Ulm fully clears the track. But the car is getting very close to the wall, veering all across the track, collecting cones, but fortunately the run was aborted just before the car was fully off track.
I was already surprised that the ASR didn't press the button just because it was completely next to the track on the right side. I would have expected that to be aborted by then. I think the team is very lucky that the car didn't hit one of the signs here, which is concrete. The 150 meter sign, I think it's
styrofoam, but
okay.
Nevertheless, there is this media wall here that would have also been very close.
That's correct. So,
and yeah, the car did veer to the right towards the wall, and then here to the left towards the wall. I think this was the most dynamic driverless run that we've seen here so far.
Well, and everybody said there won't be any excitement. Well, we stand corrected.
Yeah, we're literally standing right now. The time, curiously, is still running for Stuttgart. They're now on a 70-second acceleration run.
Yes, I think there's some pressure on the team to remove the car as fast as they can. It is on the grass. I'm not sure. It did kill a couple of cones, so also the track needs to be reinstated for the next one. I'm not sure what that does timing-wise and how much time will be added to this session or not. We'll see. We'll find out. But still, there are a lot of cars in the queue, so I do hope they will get a chance to run, because we will see fast times, I'm sure.
Yeah, track conditions are always a bit of a gamble here. We see now that the sun is out, temperatures are increasing a little bit. But unforeseen things like this can always happen, and that is just part of what you need to contend with as a team showing up here at a late point. It can happen that you just might not have enough time.
Yeah, and what you see now is, I think the Stuttgart car is being pushed to the side as quickly out of the way of the other cars as well. So just to have the clear track. And I'm sure in 10 minutes they will be allowed to push the car back to the pits. But for now, it's just a matter of getting the car out of sight, out of the track, and let the next one commence their run.
Yeah, technically they would have the opportunity for a second run. This was only their first attempt.
So a little bit of a drama and excitement here on track. I think the marshals have sorted the track again, and I think all is clear. Yeah, I see Christian talking on the phone, on the radio, telling everybody to retake their positions so we can let the next car go. It's car number 50. And it's the Lisboa car again. Should have known the number because I've seen it a couple of times already today, but that's okay. So we've seen this car lining up a couple of times already. However, they didn't manage to really get a good run in anyway. So this is probably their final attempt. Also looking at the time, it's their final attempt at the driverless acceleration.
There's good noises coming from the car. It is moving off. Collecting almost half of the blue cones that are available on track and a few of the orange ones in the finishing area as well. We're still waiting for the solid blue light. It is a valid run. And with the 5.125, it's also not that slow.
No, I think we counted about 8, 9 cones. So that time will be added to that.
I think it's closer to 16, actually. If I count the number of yellow cones and orange cones that are still standing on the other side, this is a big time penalty coming their way. Now, of course, the pressure is even more on than after the Stuttgart crash. To set up all the cones as fast as possible to keep the queue moving.
Because the car not just collected a couple of cones, it carried them away from the track. So now we have the marshals running to reset the track. And I think they have to go to the car to get the cones back because it carried them actually, I think, for more than 50 meters. The first ones here on the left-hand side, the blue ones. They're all just gone. Now the big hustle is going on to reset the track as fast as possible.
Fortunately, the team is already making their way off track at a brisk pace. So chances are good that we will see still at least a couple of cars having a go. We're overhearing some debate from the officials how many cones that was in the end, but the lowest number I heard so far was 15.
Yeah, so that's a 30-second time penalty added to the, what was it, 5 seconds run. Anyway, we have TU Valencia I should say, car number 395 on track, and I think the ASR, so the responsible team member for the autonomous systems, is there and just trying to get the car ready. I think the marshals are also back. I think the track has been given the clear, yep, as far as I can see at least. And looks like Christian is also looking to the Valencia team to make their run.
Yeah, this is their first run of the day. And I think all the other cars that are now still waiting for another run are in the second run queue. So at least everyone that wants to has been given the chance to do a run here today.
So yeah, this is the moment when the first run preference is very beneficial for teams, right? Because that means that at least you always get at least one run in, even if you're late to the party. And there's a big queue in the second run queue, then still you are able to do at least one run. And this is, of course, the intent of the rule for the queues.
Yeah, I think that's an abort for Valencia. The driverless driver is getting back in. That's normally a bad sign in the driverless event. After Valencia, we now see car number 110 from Augsburg joining us for what I believe is their second run of the day. They are, I think, one of the lucky few ones that will still be allowed to run at this event. Track is clear, Augsburg is ready to go. A 3.893, extremely good run. Looks to be valid as well. It's not the fastest time of the day, but second place is a pretty good achievement.
Yes, an excellent performance from them, and they are cheering, and rightfully so, because that looked really, really good, really fast and controlled actually, without any hiccups.
And they managed to squeeze another 2/10 out of their first run time.
So car E26 Jonas, green team. What do we expect from them?
Green team, you would expect something good. Their first run was a 4.89, and most teams we've seen doing a second run, we've either seen a drastic improvement from a DNF to a valid run, or like what we just saw, a definite improvement like from Augsburg. So you would see a competitive time that gets at least closer to what Budapest and Augsburg were able to do in terms of time before.
Yeah, and let's not forget, this is also one of the teams that are top contenders for maybe even both cups, even the electric class and the driverless class as well. So we do expect a lot from them, but we'll see. We'll have to be a little bit patient before we can see what the result will be of the second run.
Track is clear, car looks ready to go. It's Unfortunately, not an improvement over their previous run. Their end speed was a little bit faster, but with that cautious of a start, I don't think there was anything more that could be expected out of the second attempt.
Yeah, but one of the very few cars that are teams that get a 2 run on the driverless acceleration. So very well done by the team, and they can be really, really proud of this achievement because it's solid points in the bank.
I think one of the interesting things that we observed today compared to the previous years is that it's a very polar experience here. Either the teams have absolutely no trouble getting down the line very straight, or they struggle very much and in most cases don't even cross the finish line because the run has to be aborted beforehand.
Yeah, so it's a more or less 50% chance, right? So they finish or they don't finish.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
Next up is car number 24 from TU Darmstadt. We have seen a run out of them before, 6.24. Now they're lucky enough to get a second run. Still waiting a little bit longer for the car from the previous run to be completely cleared off the track. It's an entirely manual operation and takes some time. Similarly tentative start, and the car is getting very close to the cones on in the end box, but I don't think it has actually touched any of them. The 6.11 is a little bit of an improvement compared to the first run. On the timing screen, that might have gotten rounded up to 6.20. I'm very sorry. Trondheim is back on the start line. We did see an attempt from them before, which had to be aborted. There was a DNF on the board. And again, we're waiting for the last car to clear the track so that nobody gets run over. Now it looks like the track is clear. They're given the go-ahead to Trondheim. just in the final stages in the end box as the car was slowing down. We did see, I think, about 4 cones being hit, but it is a valid run, a solid blue light, and a solid time, 6 seconds, which of course will be augmented with a few penalty seconds. But a completed run is a good run. There is a time on the board. That means they score at least some points.
Yeah, let's not forget, they scored massively on the skip pad today, so this just adds to their tally.
And especially since the number of cars that are actually partaking in the driverless events here is lower than the total number of cars that are in the electric or combustion classes. These are basically bonus points for them on top of the regular expected points. The Trondheim guys are clearing the track, trying to be team players. They're actually almost running, getting the track cleared as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Milano is lining up on the start line for yet another attempt. They haven't had a first run so far, but a few attempts at starting one. And the hand gestures from the team members are indicating bad things. It looks like they're wheeling the car back. We are over 10 minutes past the originally allotted time slot for the driverless acceleration here, but Christian is finding it in his heart to give at least another attempt to one of the teams that hasn't had an attempt yet. Car number 222. I actually can't read the team name from here. Here from the sideline, so that's in fact the Naples car. The swarm of officials around the car definitely giving the team the hurry up.
Yeah, and they used the good old fashion of storing stuff on the rear wing. The only thing is that you have to remember to take all the stuff, the helmets, the paperwork. It will not be the first time that all the stuff is on there while one of the cars is starting to drive. So it's a good thing that they remember to remove all the stuff, because that could have been messy.
If I remember the rules correctly, stuff falling off the car is actually resulting in penalties as well.
Wow, I did not know that. Well, at least I think I did, but I kind of forgot, because we don't see that too many times, right?
No, I think the rule is intended for bodywork or other parts that are normally fast attached to the car, not a random laptop that you've left on the rear wing. And I think that's bad news for their first run. Team members reattaching the push bar and wheeling the car back. Since the queue is also emptying, I think we can safely say that the driverless acceleration is hereby concluded. It doesn't look like there will be any other teams lining up.
Yeah, it's too bad for the two other teams in the queue, or at least the three teams in the queue didn't manage to put in another run. But this comes, well, it's not a real surprise. We already have almost 15 minutes of extension, right? So they were given the opportunity to do at least the first run. Everybody that was here was given the opportunity to do it. So I think that's fair game. And yeah, that concludes our driverless acceleration for today. Thank you all for listening and for your patience with these driverless cars that have some action and sometimes not so much action. We enjoyed it, and we enjoyed the good weather, and we'll see you back later on for the manual acceleration.
See you later.